Good morning, everybody, and mostly welcome to Orgalim's webinar today, a circular economy supporting Europe's Green Deal climate ambition. And I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be the chair of the Orgalim Working Group Sustainability. And we are many persons that have been working together to put this seminar in place. So I'm so happy to be here, and I would like to say that there are almost 220 persons in this virtual room, most of us working from home, and I think this is great. I'm looking forward to all the presentations, and we are several people here today, and I will shortly show you who's gonna be in this conference. Next slide, please. So our speakers for today is the Director General for Orgalim, Malte Luhan, and he will tell us much more about the Orgalim technology industry sector, which is a very great sector for representing a lot of companies, and many of the companies are really proactive and far ahead and really already into a lot of legislation into products. And then we are very happy to be able to introduce Mrs. Fulvia Raffaelli, and she's head of the unit for circular economy and construction at DG GROW, a European Commission, and very busy these days with circular economy. And then we think it's very important to have a very wide dialogue, so we're happy to have the Pernille Hagen with us today. She is working for WWF and speaking for the planet, and we're gonna listen to her. And then we have chosen 3 representative companies from the Orgalim memberships, and that is Carl Edsjö. He is working for Electrolux Group, and he's a director of resource efficiency, policy and recycling. Then we have Xavier Hout from Schneider Electric, who is Senior Vice President, Group Chief Environment Officer. And finally, we have Nemi Dens from Steiner Group, and she's Director of Strategic Projects. And what I think is very nice today is we're really representing different countries in Europe, because this is a European seminar. Malte is from Belgium, Fulvia Italian, Pernille is from Denmark, and Carl is Swedish, and Xavier from France, and Nemi from Germany. And I think it's important that we are from Europe, everybody, and this is a European conference together with all people joining this seminar. Next slide, please. So this is a short glance of the program. We will get the overview from Malte Luhan in a while, and after that we will get a really nice introduction and the latest news from the Commission by Fulvia Raffaelli. And then we will have some polls in the program, but I won't tell you exactly when the polls will come, so you need to listen and stay tuned. And then we will continue with short statements from the company representatives and WWF. And after that, we will have a roundtable discussion. So please write down your questions and involve yourself with me in the discussion with at the Q&A session. And finally, in the end, we will present a short glance of the Orgalim position paper of circular economy. And actually, I just want to say that we have been working with this position paper, members of the working group of sustainability in Orgalim, every Friday for half a year. And a lot of companies have been involved in this position paper, so it's really a great European teamwork. So by that, I would like to present the next slide and give the word to Malte Luhan, Director General of Orgalim Europe's Technology Industries. Please, Malte.
Thank you, Eleanor. Very warm welcome to everyone joining us this morning. If we can go to the first slide, please. So many of you will know Orgalim. A few words just to introduce us to those who are not so familiar with us. We represent the mechanical engineering industries, the electrical engineering industries, electronics, ICT, and metal technology sectors across Europe. Our industries make everything from the advanced manufacturing equipment like industrial robots to sensors used for automated mobility to the components for smarter buildings and smarter energy grids. The 770,000 companies in our industries include some big multinational companies. Some of those you will hear from today. But most of them are SMEs and micro businesses, typically not household names, but many of them are the hidden champions that are at the heart of Europe's digital and climate transformation. In total, our industries constitute about a third of European industry. Next slide, please. Now, great to see the importance of the subject today and the level of interest that this is generating amongst you. We have over 230 registrations for our event today. I just wanted to mention that our event today is part of a broader series, which is our European Industrial Strategy in Focus series. You will find more information about that on our website, and you are, of course, warmly invited also to our upcoming events in the rest of the year on Europe's future trade policy and Europe's future policy on artificial intelligence. You're also warmly invited to sign up to our monthly newsletter, which you can do on our homepage if you want to stay up to date. Next slide, please. Now, why is today's topic so important? At the core of our policy vision for Europe is a renewal of Europe, where industry is creating new prosperity for our citizens. And to achieve this, we have identified what we call 3 strategic imperatives. First imperative is Europe needs to embrace the transformation of industry to make full use of the potential of digitalization. Second imperative is we have to enable our industry's global leadership in a more complicated, more unpredictable world. The transformation to a circular economy is at the heart of our third strategic imperative, which is about transforming the challenges that Europe faces into future opportunities. And of course, this is also closely linked with Europe's transition to climate neutrality. Next slide, please. Now, how do we realize the opportunities that we are convinced are inherent in this transformation that we are facing? We all know the environmental case for a circular economy that results from a more sustainable use of the resources that we are using and from reducing our waste footprint. I think the contribution of a circular economy to achieving Europe's climate targets is also widely recognized. We know that a more circular economy will make that transition to climate neutrality faster and more cost effective. Now, very important for us is that from an industry perspective, there's also a clear economic case. Energy and resources are a massive cost for our industries, so optimizing their use just makes business sense. And in the context of the digitalization of our industries, we're also seeing new business models emerge that are related to a more circular economy. And the whole world will be on this path. So those that have the right business models for the future, we believe are going to be the future industrial winners. So if Europe gets this right, we think we can create opportunities for industrial leadership that will also accelerate our global competitiveness. Next slide, please. Now let me come to the Circular Economy Action Plan, of course, the main focus of our discussion today. And let me start by saying that Orgalim welcomes the Circular Economy Action Plan. We see this as a major step of the goal that Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has set for Europe to lead the transition to a healthy planet. And we know that it is a crucial part of the Green Deal with this overarching ambition to make Europe climate neutral by 2050. Now, having said that, our industries are facing the worst downturn since World War II, and we expect 500,000 jobs to be lost as a result of this crisis. We see crucial investments being frozen because of the tough economic context that we're in. Given how far the Circular Economy Action Plan reaches, this makes it really critical that we make the right policy choices for the environment, but also for the industry. And the stakes are huge. If we get that wrong, the additional damage in terms of jobs, in terms of citizens' prosperity, and in terms of our industry's ability to enable this shift to a more circular, climate neutral economy, those damages can be severe. So that's what we are here to discuss today. And we're really delighted to present our views to you. You will hear some of the headlines of our position on the Circular Economy Action Plan later. And of course, this is a massive political undertaking. Our position paper reflects that. So the full paper is heavy. I can reassure you that there's also an executive summary for those who are interested in the headlines. And you will hear more about this, of course, in our webinar today in a little while. For now, let me say thank you for joining us. A big thank you to all of our speakers, and I look forward to our discussion.
Okay, so thank you, Malte Lohan, for this introduction and a little bit a glance of the Orgalim technology industries. And now it's time for a poll. So we are very interesting to listen to you, my dear audience. And we would like you to answer this question. Is the new Circular Economy Action Plan moving our society in the right direction? So we would like you to please select an answer, yes or no, and I don't know. Da, 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 da.
We're seeing a lot of people voting, Eleanor. 80% have already voted now, so we can just leave a few more seconds for those that still want to do so, and I'll close the poll.
Okay, and we will see the result.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, and these are the answers, and that is giving great support, as I can see, of the Circular Economy Action Plan. It will actually move the society in the right direction, or at least have opportunities to do it. And I think that those of you that answered no, please develop your no into a question to the Q&A sessions. And also the persons that answer I don't know, please develop your questions. So thank you very much for your activity, and we will go into the next slide. And by that, I'm so happy to be able to introduce Fulvia Raffaelli to the meeting here. And you're really into the driving seat of the entire program, I think. So we are, of course, very curious about what you're doing and your plans. And please, the screen is all yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I think this is always a very good opportunity to share views with stakeholders. Is also in these very difficult conditions. I think we need. It's important that we keep an open channel and we continue this very good conversation and dialogue that we have had in the past, and that we build out with digital with Orgalim organizations and all the companies that are part of that. Please, next slide. Indeed, as Mr. Lohan was also saying, this commission actually made very clear from the very beginning that the ambition to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050 is the driving objective of all the policy. Our president, Mrs. von der Leyen, made that very clear from the very first speech in front of the European Parliament. And since then, all documents have been measured across against this very clear objective. We are convinced that the green transition is not only it's not an environmental necessity concerning in relation with the use of resources and the use of energies and the all environmental impact which are related to the use of resources, but is also indeed competitive opportunities for our industries. Very much in line with what also Mr. Lohan said, resources and energies as cost for companies, and the more we can use that in an efficient way, the more we can control also the costs and improving our resilience. We are of the view that digitalization would need to play a very, very important role in accompanying and making this transition possible at an affordable cost, and that this joint challenge, green and digital, would allow European companies to really set a global and world standards in relation with our trade partners. First movers has already always an advantage. So by pushing the companies, we also think that this would allow our companies to play a very important role in setting the standards at the global level. This is the principles, these are the objectives that we try now to integrate in each one of the policies that we've been working on since the beginning of this commission, from the climate objectives to the circular economy, from skills to digitalization. All policies are now shaped and measures against this objective. And for the very first time, I think we can really see horizontal objectives cutting across all different Commission policies, with a very also additional efforts from our side to increase the coherence and the synergies across the different policies. Please go to the next slide. Circular economy is a very established and good, strong concept. We started in 2015 with the first action plan, and since then, actually, we saw this concept to become more and more popular, more and more taken up by companies, by social actors, by cities, by regions. All actors are concerned, and they are part of the efforts of becoming more circular, where circular actually means maximize the use of resources and prolong the life of products while reducing the overall amount of waste. Actually, waste is a concept that we would like to see disappearing and to be substituted by the idea that everything can become a resource. And this has been the guiding principle in implementing all different actions that were foreseen in the first circular economy action plan. I'm sure you're fully familiar with what we did in the past, so I'm not going to go through the different actions. But what I want to say is that there was really a big uptake of the concept of circularity, not only for companies, but also from different actors across the different sectors. Please go to the next slide. And actually, building on that success, we have adopted in March the second Circular Economy Action Plan. There's also foreseen a new 35 actions to be implemented all in the next 5 years, so within the time of this Commission. What's the difference between the first and the second action plan? The first one was still quite focusing strongly still on the management of the waste phase, or the end of life phase. So the idea was to do the best use of materials and resources at the end of life. Where actually now the objective is to really look at the entire life cycle of the products, starting from the beginning and going to the end. The interpretation of the implementation of the life cycle thinking is much more pushed than in the first one, and by introducing this very strong concept of life cycle thinking, we've been pushing forward many ideas. And we share also the view that going in this direction makes economic sense, because it rationalizes the use of resources from the beginning to the end, and it increases also the self-sufficiency and the availability of resources in this very difficult time of pandemic around the world. This is also something on which we need all to reflect, by be able to keep our products longer on the market and to valorize the resources. We may also be able to rely more than before on resources available in Europe, and this is could also improve, let's say, or at least contribute to the resilience of our manufacturing system in the medium long term. Please, next slide. To really illustrate how this life cycle approach can come into practice, one of the flagship of the Circular Economy Action Plan is the action on the sustainable products. The 80% of the product environmental impact are determined at this design phase. But what it means that actually by focusing on the way on the products, we want to address actually the entire value chain, from the use phase, as we did in the past by extending the product lifetime, but also improving the circularity. So looking at the end life, use phase, extending the product life, then end of the phase, by improving the circularity, the capacity of a product to be remanufactured, will be recyclable, and to be reconditioned. And then at the beginning of the chain, also by introducing for the first time actually the idea of tracking, tracing the carbon footprint and the environmental impact all across the life cycle. This is an action which is foreseen into the action plan, on which we are working together with the colleagues in DG Environment and DG Energy. So there will be 3 DGs responsible for this major action, which is foreseen into the Commission work program for the end of 2021. It was also confirmed by in the letter of intention that followed the State of the Union speech of Mrs. van der Leyen. This is it's a very ambitious objective, and as I said, by focusing on the product, on defining the characteristic of the products of tomorrow, we intend actually to address the resource efficiency and overall environmental impacts across the whole life cycle of a product, starting from the design. Please, next slide. To do so, we have identified some criteria, some specific sectors that which require particular attention, from constructions to food, electronics, batteries, packaging, and plastics. All these sectors have been are already heavily regulated, and I can assure you that we're doing a lot of efforts to ensure that what we are working on will be not only fully compatible, but also exploiting synergies with measures already in place. We fully understand that companies are already struggling with the current situation and in general terms with administrative burden related to the implementation of regulations, and we have that very clear in mind. Also, the many SMEs will be involved in this process, so this is why we have a specific attention, and we will try to exploit synergies with existing legislation and future possible and also instruments are already available. Next slide, please. That's also why let's say the starting point would be the revision of the existing eco-design directive to cover the widest possible range of products. In the Circular Economy Action Plan, there have been identified a number of sustainability principles that we would like to see implemented with the view to make sustainable products not a niche product anymore, but becoming really the norm. And when we say sustainable products, as I said, we say products that can last longer, can respond to the consumer expectations, but also be recyclable, repairable, and fully in line with also the expectation in terms of environmental impact at the manufacturing stage. To do so, we need to be careful to identify the measures on each one of the products. Not all products are the same, and we certainly will look at it with attention. That's why we have in mind the experience of the Eco-Design Directive, where actually after, on the basis of an horizontal directives, then rules are defined per categories of products. So this we see very clearly that products are not the same and will have to be regulated in different ways. We are in favor of, while we recognize the difference across the products, we also think that a common methodology actually would facilitate the assessment of the environmental performance across all different products, in particularly when starting at the intermediate products. So defining a common matrix is something we're looking at, and the experience we had with the implementation of the PEF methodology is again a very good starting point. As I said, all this information will have to be managed. And that's why we're working on a product passport that would be built up on a digital base. It's a lot of information that will have to be managed and also made available on a need-to-know basis, because we don't want to create problems of confidentiality, and competition is very healthy when implemented in a sound way. So the availability of information needs to be tailored to the different actors at the different stage of life of a product. And by making this information available, we would also support the member states' market surveillance authorities at the enforcement, as we're fully aware that one of the weak points of the current Eco-Design Directive has been the enforcement. Please, next slide. I mentioned already the product passport. We're working on it together with the colleagues of DG Connect, that are working on an open circular economy database. will again try to make it as user-friendly as possible. It's a big objective, but it's at the same time is the way forward, as we're not going to be able to manage all the information we need to really base a decision on a life cycle if we don't have a solid digital architecture infrastructure that supports the management of this data. As mentioned also at the beginning, the idea will be to support circular business, because products will change, and the relation between the products and the service will also change. And we want to support and to see how can different products be part of a different circular business model. To really implement the system, we will need to support the uptaking of more reuse and repair and manufacturing services. So developing new skills will also be part of the project to achieve the objective of increasing circularities. And we'll also look at the possibility to ban the unsold goods. This is mentioned into the Circular Economy Action Plan. We see, we'll look into it in the impact assessment to see how feasible and how manageable it could be. The Inception Impact Assessment has been published on the 14th of September, and the consultation is open until the 2nd of November, and I would really invite you all to look into it and to send out comments. As we will see, we have a very ambitious objective, but we need to make it we now need to go into a very pragmatic process where we also check with you what is feasible and what is not feasible. Last slide. I said a lot about the future, the idea of revising the eco-design directive, but actually we shouldn't forget that the current eco-design is still up and running, and for the coming years actually is the only instruments we will have at our disposal to enforce already and to implement the circularity objectives. As of course the new eco-design and the new product policy, product initiative will take some time. As I said, the proposal is expected end of 2021, but then co-decision and the transitional time, so that's will take some time. So for the time being, we're still working under the context of the eco-design, and I consider this as a very important element of the package, as we going to test already, as we did in the past, all the circularity principles and stretching a bit the boundaries of the current eco-design to explore what we call it the material efficiency requirements. So to test already on the products which are currently covered by the eco-design, the ideas in how to push circularity further. So just a few words on the project ongoing. We are revising the methodology, the MERP, really to integrate more this material and circular economy objectives. We are also working on the future eco-design working plan that will identify new product groups, although as we know, most of the product groups have been addressed where, let's say, traditional energy saving objectives could already be achieved. So we'll see what can we do more in terms of product groups covered. And we also launched a pioneer study on mobile phones and tablets that would support the circular economy initiatives, the digital circular economy initiative, also foreseen into the circular economy action plan. We continue to have this open dialogue with the companies and with all the business involved. We're working as usual in very close cooperation with the colleagues at DG NR on the implementation of the eco-design, and we're looking forward to your input into the different measures that will continue to be taken under the eco-design. And with that, I'm now back to you, Eleanor, for the continuation, and happy to get questions and comments during the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fulvia. It was very interesting to listen to you. It's really a lot of measures that goes right into the heart of the product management and design development in the industry. And I really think that the industries that we're meeting here are very interesting and will be active. I was thinking of the consultation that is ongoing. What are you expecting for kind of answers? Are you expecting companies themselves answer carefully, or do you more expect industry associations answer the consultations?
Well, the two typologies will be helpful because, of course, we welcome associations' position paper or reaction to the inspection impact assessment in representing group categories of products. But I would also be interested actually to get feedback also from companies, because we need some experience on the ground. We need also a bit of reactions from the ones that are going to implement this regulation in practice every day. So in particular from SMEs, I think it's important that we get their direct replies to make and to shape the future framework in a way that is as user-friendly as possible, and consider all the challenges that those companies will have to face on a daily basis. So a bit of the two. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will do our best to communicate with the SMEs and also do our best to answer this consultation within Orgalim. But another question before, what do you think is the most important activity that the Orgalim industry companies at this stage should focus on to really be circular? We have the top management of the companies with us today, so this is your chance.
Well, you have a lot of experience. We've been working for years in the context of the Eco Design Directive. You've been a partner in that work, and we rely very to extrapolate that to a broader range of products. It's very important. You're also a pioneer in a new business model, and this relationship between the product and the service that goes with it. So this is something on which you have experience and on which you can support us in defining a framework that would be, as I said, supported by the companies, because the idea is to actually embark in a process that is already ongoing, because the feeling we have is that your industry, as many other industries, actually are already in the journey of achieving and improving sustainability of products, but even more general terms of all the production cycle. And the idea here is really to accelerate and to reward the ones that are already investing in this direction by giving more transparency and more visibility to the good efforts, and not to create additional obstacles. So I think sharing your experience in terms of efforts, how you see, I mean, in practice, how you have been working on those objectives already will be very important for us.
Okay, thank you very much for that very clear message. And as you know, the political discussion as a consequence of your proposal is now really discussed. Today there is a very important meeting at the European Parliament, the rapporteurs that are really corresponding and trying to write political amendments on the Circular Economy Action Plan. They are actually meeting today. So unfortunately, yesterday we needed to change our program a little bit. We were supposed to, at this stage in the program, listen to Anna Kawazina, who is in the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee, IMCO, to listen to her reactions on the Circular Economy Action Plan, but we will not be able to do that. We regret that. So by that, Fulvia, I really thank you so much for joining us and presenting this this nice presentation. And we will move now to the next part of the program and listening to the worldwide WWF. And you're coming from Denmark, Pernille, and you will tell us a little bit of how to adopt the Circular Economy Action Plan from an NGO perspective. And you're representing the customers and the people and the nature. So we are very interested to listen to you now. So the screen is all yours, Pernille.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me today to give this presentation. It's a great honor. I have pointed out 3 key points in the action plan, which we believe is going to make the biggest impact and is the place to start. But I'm just starting out by giving a brief introduction to who I am and what organization I represent. So please go to the next slide. Thank you. My name is Pernille Hohn and I work at the WWF Denmark. I'm a circular economy and materials advisor. And before I came to WWF, I have actually been working in the industry as I have been working in the Danish Plastic Federation and the Danish Association of Cosmetic and Detergents. I'm mainly focusing on circular economy regarding plastic, packaging, and textiles. So that's just a little disclaimer. This is my main focus area. And now I work at the Worldwide Fund for Nature. We are the world's largest independent conservation organization, and we work in more than 100 countries and supporting around 1,300 conservation products worldwide. We have an overall mission to stop the degradation of the planet's natural environment and to build a future in which people live in harmony with nature. Unlike other green NGOs, we work in partnership with businesses to change behavior and develop conservation products that would not be possible otherwise. Next slide, please. Thank you. And now to the chase. I will just start by saying that I think it's amazing that despite our different point of views, we are all talking about the same circular transition. I know that we have come a long way, but with ambitious initiatives set in the action plan, I'm sure we can go even further. And that's why I have chosen 3 key points from the Circular Economy Action Plan. And please click on the slide. Then it will reveal my first key point. Thank you. My first key point from the Circular Economy Action Plan is designing sustainable products. And for that, we need an integrated approach in designing sustainable products because up to 80% of products' environmental impacts are actually determined at the design phase. So it is necessary to connect product design innovation with waste management. The 2 must work together within a system where all impacts and values are considered. Effective waste management is heavily dependent on the mix of materials and forms collected, and the end-of-life impact of a product are dependent on what kind of waste management system are in place. So the 2 actually goes together. Another thing we need to think about is the safety and quality of secondary materials, because it's also critical. And solution must ultimately result in secondary materials that meet the quality and cleanness standards appropriated to what kind of application they are used in. From an NGO's point of view, we see the problem today is that too many products cannot be reused, repaired, or recycled, and this must change if we want a circular transition. In WWF, we envision a world where our resources are never wasted. They are actually very highly valued, which leads me to my second key point. Please click on the slide. And another time, thank you. Thanks. Less waste, more value. Minimization of waste is part of efficient resource use and should be used in concern with waste management infrastructure. Both minimization and waste management are needed. And by creating value system where materials is used multiple times, we can actually do more with less. And if we extend the life of our natural resources, then ultimately we demand less from our planet. And to do this, we need to embrace a diversity of solutions, as regional differences means no one solution will work everywhere. And I don't even believe that we need one only solution. We need a lot of different solutions and a lot of different technologies to get this circular transition going. Waste solutions should therefore be evaluated by the effect they will have on the environment and people, with the overall goal of mitigating negative impacts, creating shared value, and increasing reuse and recycling of materials. The entire value chain has a shared responsibility for the end of life of products, but also a shared opportunity to benefit from value created through better materials management and increased access to secondary high quality materials. And for all that to be possible, it is necessary to get alignment and cooperation of all stakeholders at all levels, which is my third and last key point. Thank you. This is also the overall conclusion to the Circular Economy Action Plan, that all stakeholders endorse this plan and actually contribute to its implementation. And to do this, we need a systemic approach. It's key to a long-term success, as all the components must be in place for a recovery system to function effectively. This includes such factors such as infrastructure, collection, market access, public engagement, and even effective communication. Sharing responsibility and accountability across sectors is key and should be balanced by shared value creation. To build a future where people and the planet both can thrive, we need to make these radical changes to the way products are sourced, managed, and recovered. And sourcing materials responsibly is critical to protect our ecosystems, to get this recovery going, and using materials more than once. So my kind of overall conclusion to the Circular Economy Action Plan is that we cannot realize this future without taking a whole systemic approach, where every actor in the value chains takes their part in keeping products in the supply loop and out of our ecosystems. And that was like my main thing today. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Pernilla. I think it was great that you really tried to focus on 3 issues. At the same time, you think that they're a holistic perspective, and that's going to be a challenge, both prioritizing and take the holistical perspective at the same time. So I was thinking, when you are working together with companies in partnerships, what implications do that have with your policy and how you see policy development?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you. I think that WWF is known for its cooperation with companies. We know that companies play a key role in creating a sustainable future. And just to get in this seminar, I believe that you're actually willing to make this transition. And that's why we work with companies to create like long-term results that provide value for both the company and for the nature. A strategic partnership with WWF could result in reduced impact on climate, the environment, and nature. It could also move sectors and markets into a more sustainable direction, or even raise public awareness of specific challenges associated with sustainable development. Our collaboration with companies is based on the fact that together we can make a real difference for the environment. And just to elaborate what effects and results that is possible to create in like a collaboration, I can tell you a little about our WWF Denmark's partnership with the Danish retailer Salling Group. And this partnership mainly focusing on Salling Group plastic consumption. But in this partnership, we made like a plastic strategy with specific objects for the entire Salling Group, with recommendation for all the group brands. And together with that, we created concrete targets and measures for solution and an alternative to the existing use of plastic in products and packaging. For example, switching to using secondary materials instead of virgin. And I can see my time is running out, so just some concrete effects of this partnership. We think that We have, through this partnership, given great visibility of Salon Group's work with plastic, as the partnership activities has been communicated to consumers both digitally and in store. And I think this is really supporting a change in consumer behavior. We also believe that there is a major political benefit of having companies and consumers care about plastic. The issue then resonates stronger with the politicians, and as it becomes a public area of concern. And I believe that we together can realize the circular transition.
Okay, thank you. And then we will move into how also cooperate among and with the other companies. So by that, thank you, Pernille. And now we're gonna listen to in one at a time, 3 Orgalim members. And first of all, I would like to welcome you, Carl Edsjö. You're working for the Electrolux Group, and you're very active in working with circular economy since many years. And your presentation is named Drivers for Uptake of Recycled Plastic. And I think with the answer of the question we got from Pernille, we can really see that working with plastics is nothing. It's not only for the retail. It's a lot about white goods sector also. So by that, Carl, the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Eleanor. Good to be here. Good to hear the previous speakers, Fulvio, and also from WWF. And I just reflect on one thing that we heard from Pernille is about embrace diversity of solutions. That's a term I like very much and will sign off to that when speaking about circular economy. It's not one way or one solution or one direction. It's a number of different actions that should be allowed and are needed to make it happen. I will drill into one specific topic in the circular economy overall, and then link it also to the circular economy action plan and policy instruments. But first, let's have a look at circular economy at the manufacturing company from Electrolux point of view. So next slide, please. So I'm leading the circular economy efforts at Electrolux, and we have since a few years defined clearly, yes, again reflecting on the diversity of activity that are needed to become more circular. And here you see in the center is basically this popularly usually called the linear model, and it's basically how it looks today. From left to right, you see that the raw material extraction, component manufacturing, product assembly and manufacturing, this is happening right now, and then the products will be distributed, sold, and most importantly, actually, the product use. That is where most of the things happen, most of the impacts happens actually. And finally, later on, sometime the product will be discarded and has to go to recycling. This is what it looks today. And I mean, to some extent, this is what it will look in the future also, but we can improve several of these steps. And then the arrows in this slide show some of the opportunities, and most of the opportunities to make a more circular manufacturing process. Some of the arrows indicate things that are happening, and some indicate more opportunities. If you go from the top, you see the materials are used or recycled materials. That is very much happening today also for us, though at it's just a part of all our material use, of course, and it can grow, but it is happening. Components and products reuse and refurbishment is something that is to be explored, at least for our industry. We see that happening with third-party actors, but it's not on a big scale yet. Reuse further down is also the one sector that is being explored, but pretty new. While the service, of course, is a very established activity. We are very good at service. We do a lot of repairs. We maintain a lot of products every year. I would say in the range of millions of service calls per year. So these are the different elements that make up, some of the elements make up a more circular white goods industry. In the bottom, you also see pay-per-use and product lease, this discussion about new business models, which are growing and where we need to explore. And I think that the challenges here are quite big, because also we need to make it work, of course, but we also need to make sure that these new business models actually lead to a better sustainability performance, lower environmental impacts. That's not for granted just because it's a product lease, but it will require a lot of work. Just one click, please. So now I'll focus, just to make it more concrete, I'll focus on specifically what's going on in recycled materials, and that's recycled plastics. So next, please. We see, you have the overall picture, we see that it's been a lot of talk about eco-design, and I think that is crucial. That is the policy side of things. One of the policies, there are plenty of other policies that can support us in driving a more circular economy. But I here like to add the other drivers that are equally important, in my view, or sometimes even more important, of course, to really drive change. And when it comes to Electrolux use of recycled plastic, our first initial drive to even start this journey of using more recycled materials was our sustainability, our own sustainability ambitions. We want to be the sustainability leader in our industry. And that led us to start to look into how to use recycled plastic. That came at a big effort, and it comes with continuous effort because it's a challenging material. But this is, to the left, you see the confirmation of the sustainability performance. I think there are other advantages of using recycled, but this is just the carbon footprint. It's considerably lower for recycled materials than for virgin materials. So this is kind of the proof point that the sustainability is there. But supporting driver, next click, please, which has been very important in going forward and growing our use of recycled plastic, has been the business case. These two combined, the sustainability ambition and the business case, has been so far been very efficient driving our uptake for recycled plastic, or if you want to put it like differently, our success in replacing virgin with the recycled materials. You can see that on top you see the cost evolution for virgin materials, virgin plastic of a certain kind, and below you see what we pay for a certain kind of recycled plastic. Now, this is not valid for all industries and all materials. That's true. We often hear that recycled plastic is more expensive than virgin. That is obviously not always the case. Certainly not, has not been the case for us. What is true, though, is that the use of recycled plastic, shifting from virgin to recycled, comes at a cost in investments and competence building and so on. Obviously, today, October 2020, the situation is slightly different, unfortunately. Oil prices have collapsed, and with that, also the price of plastic has gone down to some amount. We still think we have a business case, but it's been weakened by the oil prices. That's clear, to be honest. But the main point here is when we have the strong business case, it's a strong driver for sustainability. Next slide, please. Next, I think that just to dig into a little bit again how to use recycled plastic, what are the challenges? And I think it was touched upon already previously that using recycled materials also require very high attention to chemical compliance, because of course recycled materials have been out there and been used in different applications, and we need to make sure that we do not bring forward any chemical legacy substances into the next generation of products. Performance of the material in terms of how it provides the properties we need is of course critical. Supply, consistent supply, we want to have the same quality over time. And key, again, as I mentioned before, the business case should be competitive to drive the business. Next. What you see today is that the overall increased attention to environment helps us to build this business case. We see expanding supply of recycling and improved quality. We have so far seen the relatively low cost, and that's been a very supportive trends. Next. Finally, final piece here is linking all this to the policy. And that in the Circular Economy Action Plan in this context, I would point to a few things that has been really supportive in sourcing the recycled materials, and that is the key enabler for us has been the separate collection of waste streams, both of appliances, but foremost of plastic packaging waste. Is an eminent source of recycled plastics. So the separate collection in linked with the producer responsibilities is a key requirement. And of course also the recycling targets for the materials that have been collected, because that gives us the material we need. My final 4 comments on this is that, which I think I've proven now, that policy should help strengthen the business case for doing right. That makes the sky the limit, because things that are cost efficient, a business will try to do as much as possible. Coming to the policy measures, we see that now there's a discussion on mandatory recycled content, but that will have unintended consequences. There are a few things that makes me concerned about speaking of mandatory recycled content. Is that first of all, it will not be possible to enforce. There's no way to measure the recycled content on the product. We also see that it has an impact on cost. So the now existing business case might risk to be destroyed. It's short-term improve the situation for recyclers, short-term or long-term destroy the business case for us. But finally, what I hear from the several sources is that the unintended consequence of the mandatory recycled content is that we see new PET, virgin PET being sold as recycled, or sometimes even sent directly to recyclers to be reworked once and then sold as recycled. These are of course not the consequences we want to have. Finally, 2 more things to the alternatives, which I think would be very interesting to support rather the business case for recycled plastic, is to realize that shifting from virgin to recycled is a big effort for companies. And in this context, when we've been speaking about SMEs, it's an even bigger effort, because as an SME, you probably lack the laboratory resources or the resources you need to make this shift. And finally, standards for treatment and quality of secondary raw materials will help all users of shift to more recycled materials. And that's it for me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Oh. Okay, Carl, thank you very much for this presentation, and you more or less answered my question in your presentation. but I was thinking about what Fulvia was saying about eco-design directive, but you didn't mention eco-design directive as much as you mentioned more waste policy. So I guess that in your choice, waste policy is more a driver than eco-design directive. Was that the way I should understand you?
No, I don't think so. That's this was just one aspect of circular economy, I think. But I think that the first slide I showed with the arrows or in all directions is that there. I think we're really looking forward to work with the Commission on the different eco-design aspects, because there we can see now eco-design has ambition to enter into more of these areas, especially the repairability, the service, access to spare parts, and longevity of products. And I think in principle and fundamentally, we do support this direction very much. It's also in line with our ambitions, and it's undeniable that prolonging the life of products is good for the environment. So I think that this direction is, here is the link to eco-design, I think. And I think that, but the crucial point is to get it right. And that's why I also want to mention that need to get it right so it works business-wise, so that we get drivers that is pushing in the right direction in a strong way, not just limiting, but encouraging.
Okay, thank you. We will continue this discussion, so stay tuned. But now we will shift our focus to France. And we will gonna listen to Xavier Hout, mostly welcome again. And you're gonna tell us a little more about circular economy in the electronic and electrical equipment sector. And that is also one of the priority sectors in the circular economy action plan. So I'm very happy to see you here on the screen, Xavier, and it's all yours.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Elinor, for the introduction. I was very happy and pleased to hear Mrs. Raffaeli's point on the direction she wants to bring to the next phase of the circular economy journey. So I'll come back to that in a second and want to share why we are very aligned with the direction set. So in the next slide, I will quickly introduce what circular economy means for a company like ours. I spend 1 or 2 minutes to walk you through the concrete steps it represents for a company like ours, which is present in 100 countries with thousands of references, which are into energy management and industry automations, which somehow make the world's buildings, data centers, industries, and grids enjoying a safe and secure and sustainable energy. So you all know this familiar half butterfly diagram by Ellen MacArthur Foundation and McKinsey. So if I start with the vertical line, what it means for us from the very beginning of eco-designing, as you see on the left, we've been eco-designing 100% of our products, meaning it's compulsory in our company earlier in the stages of even earlier stage of innovation, concept design, to think about the services that circuit breakers, that uninterrupted power supply, that speed drive will be delivering to our customers. Not only the materials, but also the ability of that product to last long, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And in that lifespan to be having 2-3 lives through retrofit, refurbish, connected services, and at the end, a responsible end of life. As you may know, we are under a responsible producer responsibility, extended producer responsibility, EPR, called WEEE in our sector, waste for electronic and electrical equipment. So that's certainly what happens at the very first stage. Then if I follow down this path of product design and manufacturing, we have created a label called Green Premium, where more than 80% of our products today, which are sold, out of the 27 billion of our revenues, are coming with clear claims, a life cycle assessment. We call it a PEP, Product Environment Profile, which has been, as you may know, selected by PEF program with Orgalim, and PEP, EcoPassport, and Orgalim are together helping frame the future of environmental footprint in that sector. So we've been producing 2,000 of those life cycle assessment at Shadow, covering a range of technologies which cover 80%. In manufacturing, likewise, we want no waste. So we had a program called Zero Waste to Landfill, and today our 2 factories are getting to be towards zero waste to landfill, which is a very minimal or nil waste disposal into landfill. Then you get the distribution, where we have packaging, secondary and primary. So as of today, we have 99% of our secondary packaging, transport packaging, which is from recycled or certified sources. So that's just for the process from within our own companies. But what's most exciting maybe for today's discussion, at least for us here, is the loops on the right. And I start from the bottom loop, which is to maintain the product at the optimal conditions for as long as possible, as you know, so without any repair, without any refurbish. It's through IoT, connected services, field services. A company like ours has 15,000 people which every day in the world go and service, preventative maintenance, curative maintenance, improvement of performance. Then we have other loops about reuse, which can be taking a product back from a customer, retrofitting it, refurbishing it. We have, as you see, energy as a service models, where we have created specific purpose vehicle for enjoying our company, some of our customers not to buy our products, but to pay as they use or to pay by the megawatt hour. Some of our customers even pay us based on the energy savings they get from us. And of course, the very last loop, which is a bit disheartening when a product has reached its end of life, which is to make sure it's recycled and the materials at that time have a second life. And you see on the right, we've likewise set targets. The 120,000 metric tons is over 3 years, 2018 to 2030, by taking back UPSs, drive circuit breakers, or any other technology, which we contactors and other products at Schneider, we avoided new virgin materials to be extracted because those materials were brought back into the loop. The 45% annual increment of assets under management is we have demonstrated that when the products are connected, when we know what's happening with them in the buildings of our customers, we can maximize their circular nature, their circular life. Their life is extended and the circular services are optimized. On the top right, you see recognitions. I'm very proud that we got, and our CEO last year in Davos World Economic Forum got the winner award of circular prize, which was remitted then, which somehow recognized for a multinational company the fact that it was fairly systematic from getting circular resources in the product, having a circular supply chain, circular packaging, and circular business models. I know, and we know so well, we have so much more to do ahead of us. We are still having a number of models which are fairly linear, where products are sold through ecosystems of partners, and they have their own life in buildings and industries, but we don't necessarily intervene in the life of those products. But the move towards pivoting to systematic circularity was recognized. In the next slide, I would want to share with you how much this we welcome the approach of DG GROW, because as it was said by Orgalim and DG GROW and previous speakers, we believe circularity is a fantastic mantra for a Build Back Better, for a Green New Deal. For me, there's no much better word. Let me share you why. First, on the left, it's good for business and our customers. When you prolong the life of an asset, any asset, it's saving you money. You don't buy twice the same thing. You have the CapEx, which is extended. You move from CapEx to OpEx. It's easy to demonstrate financially. It's also peace of mind. Many of our customers, especially in times of resilient challenges in COVID, they want to lighten the balance sheet, and they're happy that somebody else is carrying the assets on their books. And number two, we've demonstrated that it's good for CO2 and good for resource avoidance, virgin resource avoidance. That's a no-brainer. But certainly planet is only one of the pillars, and we are happy that DG GROW owns circular, because it's much more than resource conservation. It is that, but it's so much more business models and new way of living a vibrant Europe. The government, many countries wants to capture locally the value. So when you have a product which is prolonged life, taken back, retrofitted, reverse logistics, you create jobs which are not delocatable, if you wish. So it's capturing here and there in those countries jobs. Then it goes to getting the right skills, education, and have the customers and citizens feeling those models appealing. So the huge job to be done by the governments and by EU to make appealing those ways of consumption, those jobs. And for us, on the right side, it's of course a great satisfaction to use less resources and less carbon. It's also a good way to do business. When you start a relationship with a customer knowing that they're going to be services, second life of the product, end of life, replacement, it's also good to stay in touch with your customers for life, making that customer happy, but making us as a company also happy to be engaged for the longer term. And we saw that in the COVID year 2020, the most resilient businesses in sectors like ours, not only at Schneider, were the ones very strong in software, connected objects, and services. And it's not a surprise, I think, for many of you on this call today. So to conclude, the next slide will somehow wrap up what we would like to see more, and we've seen a lot of progress over the last few years in the Circular Economy Action Plan. And again, what Mrs. Raffaeli emphasized in your introduction is certainly very much touching many of these points. So the first thing which is super important for us is no one size fits all. When for instance, I take this coffee cup or my maybe my jacket here, circularity means a different thing. To my cup, maybe the eco-design, the materials is important, but maybe I should reconsider the way I drink with a reusable bottle rather than this. But it's true that the resource is key. For our products which last 15, 20 years, we think much more about life cycle, repairability, and not only the repairability, but the existence of an ecosystem of partners, we can give a second life to those products. All resources are not equal. Even if we all force ourselves to bring recycled content everywhere, we do a lot of lab testing. In our sector, we use polyamides, polycarbonates, polypropylene, and it's a fact that today they don't necessarily behave as recycled as they are in virgin, based on their very physical features. The number two set of expectations we have is from a sector is to ensure digitization is the name of the game, and that I've heard so clearly from Mrs. Raffaelli through the various programs which are there, the passport, the PEP, the PEF, all data should be provided digitally, and that's certainly a good directions to follow. We want to ensure that for the sake of circularity, not anybody can do anything on any product. In our sector, we are super cognizant of the risks of ill management of electrical products. I don't want my home to be using a second-hand circuit breaker and it's not tripping when I need it. Market surveillance was mentioned. IP rights, of course, very well captured by Mrs. Raffaelli. We need to ensure this is also kept. And the last, and that I promise, the last two bullet points, what we see is good to have circular products, but what limits circular business models is sometimes we don't have the skills. It's too expensive to take back a product. Labor is expensive. So we see sometimes in countries like Sweden, where there was a lower VAT for some B2C circular services, there certainly be something to be found to lower the break-even of those circular models, and maybe Europe can help and DG Grow and give a nudge for certain years to circular business models, without which we won't take off as quickly as we should. Back to you. We don't hear you, Elinor. We don't hear you.
Thank you so much. I forgot to unmute. I will take one quick question, since we are running out of time a little bit. But I was thinking about what would you think, as being working at Schneider Electric, are the most important driver for circular economy? Would it be the investors that you have in your company, or would it be the policymakers, or would it be the customers?
Yeah, I will start with a fourth one, which is the first reason why we are there, because we want to live within the boundaries of one planet. And our CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, say our mission is to drive resource efficiency and sustainability everywhere. So that's the motto. But of course, you're right. Investors are liking those business models which are resilient. It's good for customers, as I was trying to say, and also it's good for us. So it's really many things. But the first thing is, as we do for carbon neutrality, we want to live on very limited and a frugal manner on resources, and that's what drives this quite a lot.
Okay. So thank you. We will come back to you a little bit later. And by that, I would like to introduce Mrs. Naomi Dens, and you are the Director of Strategic Projects of Steiner, that is a German company, and you are also a member of the board of VDMA, that is a member organization of Orgalim. So please, Naomi, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Eleanor. So please pass to the next slide. Yeah, we are a German-based company. Our name is Steinet. What we are doing machines which are searching and separating resources. So our business model is to enable our customers to be more resource efficiency, to get a better waste management and circular economy reality. This is what we are doing. Please, next slide. So, as I said, we are indeed a real SME. So, from our point of view, we have a few challenges and opportunities in changing in a real circular economy business model. What we see is that digitalization is one of the key points that we have to create to get more circular economy done. But the question for us is how to find a good business model and have more services, more digitalization done, and how our customers could have a chance to get that way done with us. On the other hand, we see that normally in a business to customer world, the pressure to have more circular economy is much more than in the B2B context. This is our reality today. Next slide, please. So I said that we are a machinery maker. So just to make it clear how our industry normally is involved in circular economy. The machinery industry is indeed the enabler for different steps of circularity. First, recycling. This is what the business model of the company I'm working for. But a big issue for the mechanical engineering industry is also that they provide better production technologies. So if Schneider Electric, for example, is talking about more energy and resource efficiency in their production, they need our machines to do so. So what the industry sector is doing, we develop and produce different machines and components. We are doing plant engineering, but we are also developing and selling products like pumps, etc. But machinery industry is also a consumer of machines and materials. And this is, from my personal perspective, one of the challenges the industry sector has to do or has to overcome in the next years. Next slide, please. But back to the perspective of the company I'm working for, what we need to have the circular economy done is, once, starting with the last point of my slide, we need to get more digitalization. This means we need more infrastructure to do that. To give you an example, we have customers in the waste management industry. So our machines are smart machines. So if you want to identify and separate, for example, different sorts or different types of plastics, you need to get the data. You need to identify with the data the different types of plastics, and then you can do, or our machines do, a sorting decision, and they sort the different types. If our customer who is running the machine do not have a digital infrastructure, there is no chance to do that. And if Fulvia Raffaeli is talking about the digital product passport, and we are talking about the waste management phase, so you need to transfer exactly this kind of data into a data space, and this don't work without more digitalization. What we also see is, if we want to change more to an economy with product as a service solutions, there need to be some tricky things done, like the tax law to the amortization of service and digitalization solutions, and that kind of nitty-gritty things an SME should and have to solve indeed. And what if I have a wish to the policy makers, if they are talking about the product passport and the digitalization, so please don't search on your own on the solutions. There are so many standards regarding the digital passport, like OPC UA protocols, like the GS Global Standard, where we have data space, we have defined information which can be used in that field. So this is a wish I have to the policymakers. And last but not least, if we are talking about SMEs and their way towards a circular economy, the policy should support SMEs in the conversation towards that. This is the thing SME could not do by their own. They need some support, and this is my last wish to the policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. It was really interesting. We are running a little bit late, so I will wait with my question for you. And I would like that we continue with the program. And I think that if we get the presentation back again, I think we have a poll. Yes. And then now, audience, please answer this poll. And now we are really interested to listen to you to see what actions do you believe are most important for creating a circular economy. Now we're talking about the drivers. Digitalization, collaboration, would it be product policy, waste legislation, or business models? Please answer this poll right now. Thank you.
Do note that you can select more options, so not just one.
And do you tell me when we're ready?
Yeah. We have more than half of the people who voted. I think
okay.
We can wait a bit more to think about this well. And in 20 seconds, we can stop it.
You need to think. That's important. Time to think is always very important. Okay. So it seems, wow, we have a spread out answer of this that we can see a quite even driver. And I think that that might be, try to remember now this, my dear panelists, that we have, but though we have a winner, that it would be business models together with product policy, together with collaboration, and now we're getting more than 100%, so that was interesting. Thank you. I think we will believe and remember the answers. And those who think digitalization is very important driver need to talk about this a lot more, I think. So by that, I think we move over to the question and answer part of this webinar. So I would like all the speakers, Fulvia, Pernille, Carl, and Xavier, and Naomi, please turn your webcams on and we can be together in the room. Actually, I know that Fulvia, you are a little bit heading towards another meeting, and there has been a lot of questions for you, so I would actually be polite, I think I would be polite at least, to answer questions from the audience to you. And the first question, I think, is a little bit was also discussed by you, Naomi, in the presentation, and that is really what kind of information do you aim to include in the product passport? Please.
Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you to all the panelists for their very interesting presentations. I've learned quite a lot, and we're talking a lot about consumer products, so I was happy also to have presentations from the machinery side or for the B2B, let's say, sides, because this is something that is very important. And by the way, by focusing on consumer products, we are indeed trying to influence all the chain that comes before. So it's a way, it's a catalyst. The consumer product is a catalyst for change. But it was interesting to hear from you also the reference that you made very strongly to the change of the business model that we need to rely on. Now on your question, Eleanor, I think that is it's too early to say. We're working on it, and what I can say at this stage is that we need to have a very pragmatic and proportionated approach, because data are good, but if there are too many, then we are also lost. So we have to identify where the key indicators are and what would be the key drivers for pushing forward the transitions. Too many data is like no data. We need to identify very clearly where the spots are, and for that we need a very clear methodology. Of course, as I mentioned before, we have the experience of the PEF methodology, but we also have, we know that there are other standards which are at the international level, ISO, etc. So we're looking at all different options, and on that basis we would need to identify which data we need. And I'm also getting very clear the message about the need of a strong and robust digital infrastructure that would be able to handle all this additional, this enormous amount of data. And also what has been mentioned many times, the need of having these digital tools communicating to each other, so that we're not forced to reintroduce the same data under different regulatory purposes. So we need to create a system, indeed a data space, where all these data can be entered, they stay, and used then for different purpose during in the different context. All that in respect of the IPR and competition rules, and respect of the innovative, let's say, ideas of companies. So it's not an easy task. That's clear. We will see most probably the first prototype of passport will be the one that we're working on for the batteries, and then we'll broaden the scope to the in terms of product policy, and then we see also how to have a system that would support also other product streams or product families. We see on the way to go, but we are conscious of the need of creating an infrastructure that would then serve as a basis for others, not to multiply all these different tools and to maximize the synergies. And as I said, we're working very closely with DG Connect to ensure that the work they're doing on the circular database is fully in line with what we're doing in terms of product passport.
Thank you, Fulvia. I think that was interesting to hear, and very important signal that you give us, because we actually, being representative of the engineering industry, there are a lot of SMEs and a lot of big companies that are really upset about the SCIP database, where they're supposed to fill in data that are not really, well, the procedures and the timing is really difficult and problematic for them. So I would like to also have a comment from Nemi about the product passport in respect to what Fulvia just said and your work at your company.
Yeah, what we see, or we work with other companies in the process chain, especially to that field, to the questions if we could have for plastics digitalized product passports, so that the producer of secondary raw materials or secondary plastics is able to fit in the product, in the production of a plastic product, like like a laptop or whatever, and what kind of information is needed through this whole life cycle, and how we can transfer and collect all that information. This is what we are doing at the moment with other companies in the plastic production and use phase. And what we do is not to say that we have to develop the world new, but we have a look into existing standards and existing protocols, models, whatever you like, to adapt them for the problem we would like to solve. And from Steinert perspective, what we're doing is we have in mind, and we know all about the data we need in the waste management phase to get the secondary raw material done. And this is the expertise we could give in that project.
I was thinking that, thank you. And I also would like to go back. As you know, our industries have serious concern regarding the workability and proportionality about the value of this SCIP database. How do you see that the SCIP database as it is will support circular economy in real environmental practice, Fulvia? Or adapt into your...
Sorry,
I was thinking, how do you know really how the SCIP database will work in practice to support companies to really create a circular economy?
So this is the project managed by DG Environment in first place, and I'm looking at it from far. So I am aware of the difficulties that the database is having in its first stages, and the problems that they are encountering. I must say that having worked on REACH for 7 years, I know that database in general terms and the registration processes takes time to enter into reality and to become, let's say, real. So a certain time of assessment, I think, is needed. I know that the colleagues in DG Environment and are working very actively to see how the situation be improved. So what I could say is that certainly we would need to ensure a communication between that database and other database and the future product passport, because these data are, of course, the presence of substances, in particular when in recycled material, as one of the indicators I was referring to, we need to consider in the future. So certainly we will need to learn from that experience and to see how can exploit also data in that context. And again, you maximize the use of the information that is already there and be collected.
Okay, thank you. I just saw a hand from Xavier. Would you like to comment? Just a short comment, and then I have a next question to Fulvia before she leaves.
Yeah, short comment. So wanted to build on what was just said by the two last speakers. So yes, we follow that intention to have product category specific approaches and build on what exists. So back to Naimi's point, many sectors have already come up with their own passport or kind of information, and we see 3 territories. One is the product footprint, how much is weighing on carbon and things is one thing. Then we have the circular lifespan, repairability, and we work with Sense and Elec. And then we have the chemical substance. So what we think out of the 3 worlds, just select the few information which are really needed for that customer in that market. So if we can do that, be sector specific, ensure the 3 pillars are captured, and especially we are very choosy about what's really mattering the other side of the table digitally, then I think we can do a great passport.
Hey, thank you. I really got an interesting question here from the audience, and that question have 2 angles. And one angle is for the companies, and that question is how really you as working with circular economy in your companies, how do you know how to measure that you really are performing a circular economy and set practic targets in your companies? What about Carl? You have been quiet for a while.
I think that that question breaks down into more elements. Because then we have to ask, why do we do circularity for its own sake or something else? I think that circularity is kind of a tool to achieve sustainability and environmental performance. And I think that for us, we have identified a number of different activities that could make us more circular. And at the same time, we are very concerned about really, to the person who asked, that's really a good question, and if breaking it down, make sure that this has improved our mental performance and not just our business performance. And I think that is, so it's a good question, and it's a very challenging one, really. But I can say, as for example, that the LCA tools will still be very important. It's not the only tool, but so that if you, for example, compare selling of an appliance versus leasing an appliance, how do we make sure that that leasing model really do reduce the environmental impact over a certain time span, for example? That is something of the things we are working on right now.
Thank you, because I saw in your presentation, Xavier, that you were also measuring, and you were having a measuring like 200 sites towards zero landfill. How far are you to move towards transforming waste into new resources in your activity, and how do you measure?
Yes, thank you. We have 5 KPIs type. One is circular materials. So I said 2 times more recycled plastic in the products. So materials is one. Second is supply chain, so 0 waste to landfill, waste intensity, and we have targets. Third is product circularity. How many of our products are repairable, upgradable, whatever. Number 4 is how much of energy as a service revenues we make, so business model. And 5 is how much of circular resources gain to our customers. And here we quantify tons of CO2. So 5 territories and KPIs. So again, it helps us see the progress and stretch the teams to do better on those 5 dimensions: materials, products, supply chain, business models, and resources.
And then I was thinking that before Fulvia, I will give the question to you, Pernille, in a moment. But Fulvia, when you are working with the Circular Economy Action Plan, there is a little tiny part of the Circular Economy Action Plan that is about measuring. How do you plan to really make sure that what you're doing is leading towards increased competitive actions for the European Union and the companies, and decreased environmental impact?
Well, nobody's sure of anything in this world, but I think the idea we're working on this assumption that the more efficient use of resources, being energy or material, is already a big advantage. And then it's an objective that actually, as I said before, catalyze the changes all across the value chain. And then it has a direct impact also on the quality of the product that goes to the consumer, make it more visible. These, let's say, the efforts in terms of sustainability can also drive the market afterwards in terms of consumer choice, but also in terms of public procurement, in terms of uptaking from big buyers. So we really think that the ones that are making more efforts to go in terms of, to invest in terms of sustainability will be rewarded. And our intention is really to support this process, to really create the condition for the sustainability business to be more and more interesting in terms of, in economic terms, not only in terms of our environment. We see the possibility of a win-win situation, and that's also our let's say, the message that we think we can get across on a global basis, because we believe that if we're going to be able to win that challenge or to really showcase that opportunities, then others will follow us, because this is we have the advantage of being the first movers, and our companies are leaders on the world in terms of technology, recycling technologies, but more in general terms of technology, sustainable enabling technologies. And we need to really support that across that advantage that we have. This is the big opportunity. This is the guess that we're making on our future. But projecting this model across not only Europe but across, we think is a great opportunity. And paradoxically, the current situation with the economic crisis we are facing also during the pandemic, again, it makes that opportunities even more important, because we don't want to use the big money of the recovery funds to go back to old models. We really encourage, and they use member states to use this money to support innovative business that goes in the right direction. So
Okay.
that's our guess for the future, and I hope this is a shared challenge for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I would like to pass on to Pernille. How do you think that we should measure that we really get more competitive and without more environmental impact? What would be your proposal?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think KPIs is a great way to start. I think it's important that you can measure your progress. And I think we have 3 important companies here today who actually shows us that they are already doing a lot of things. They are already tracking their progress. And this is what we need more of. We need great examples of companies who are like first movers and take the first steps and really make strategic choices towards a circular transition. And I just think that I have learned a lot today by hearing to all of your presentations, and I think that this is really possible. So that was just my first thing to say.
Okay. Okay, then I know that Fulvia, that you need to leave us. So thank you so much for taking all the time for joining us and listening. And thank you. And by that, if Nteme had a very short comment, I think that we need to conclude this question and answer and continue a little bit with our program. And thank you so much, all the panelists. And then I would like to just give you all a little sneak peek of the Orgalim's, on our Orgalim's view on the new Circular Economy Action Plan. And you could please turn the slide. So we will today publish this position paper. We have 2 position papers as well. We have a strategic document, a summary, and then we have a long position paper. We actually, since products is part of circular economy and we are trying to move further up in the hierarchy, a lot of the proposals are very close and very important for the engineering industries. So therefore, there's a long document. Please show the next picture. So being in Europe, the most important part of circular economy actually would be another issue. It would be the issue of the European market. We need Europe. We need to have the harmonized regulations within Europe. It is the most important market for so many companies, the trade within the union. And therefore, all the policy development from a product perspective really need to have a harmonized approach. We can see developments right now in Europe that national legislations are developing in the area of environment and in the area of chemicals that is really creating a lot of trouble for industry, that they need to put more effort into administration instead of making a true sustainable activity that really comes from their ambitions. So harmonized approach is our main message. The next message is really better regulation. It's very, very important that we have this kind of dialogue. Knowledge about policy for being a company is important, but being a policymaker, knowledge about companies are very important. And this meeting today is our way of trying to decrease the gap between policymakers and companies to really have a greater learning, to be able to show the need of better regulation. And part of that is really impact assessment. Prior to really legislation, you really need to know the consequences. So all new initiatives need to really be proportionate and also obtain the objective. And the next and third really important thing is, if policymakers really have an objective, authorities need to control. Market surveillance and efficient environmental enforcements are a very, very important part of the legislative system, because if we have legislation that nobody follows or that nobody controls the system, we can't be sure that the competition is fair. So that would be our three very, very important messages. You can please turn slide. And the other thing that I was already into is really this dialogue that we're doing. We have been working, the engineering industry has been working with product legislation and legislation towards waste, legislation towards environment for a long time. First, we have legislation towards the production sites, and the last 10 years, we have legislation towards the products. And by that, we learn a lot. And there's a lot of people that really think that what they're doing and feeling very proud of working on the companies also would like to have the dialogue. So at all stages, for all parts of the circular economy, we would like to have dialogue with all the actors in the value chain. And the second part of that, or the second part of very good legislation, is standards. Standards is something that is developed together. It's a very democratic procedure within the international standardization organizations. And it's really essential that we have the standards, because the standards are global. So if the companies are active, and even if authorities join standardization activities, we go global directly. And we have really good experiences with for example, the ROS directive that really went into standard, and that has been a global, more or less a global legislation. So having a new approach, a methodology, having harmonized standards and also other standards is a key activity to implement legislation and implement activities that is a driver towards circular economy. You could also see some examples of that in the presentations, both from Electrolux and I also think from Nemi and Xavier. So it's really important. And then we need to realize that even though Europe is a great and very important economy, we're part of the global system. And a lot of the companies are exporting and are truly international companies where Europe is a part. So we really have to see that supply chains and components and business models need more or less to be global directly. We need to focus then on climate, resource efficient and circular economy at the same time. And then please, you could choose. Nevertheless, I would like to have some words about product policy. And the first message that I had is that we really need to have clear and consistent policy objectives. We have been working with the Eco-Design Directive now since it was decided and implemented. Of course, we have a lot of experience of that directive, and what companies that are not kind of small companies are saying to me when I'm talking to them is that you really need to see that companies without the Eco-Design Directive also get requirements, because we want to have it fair. And therefore, I mean, we support widening the Eco-Design Directive, but it's really fundamental that it's stable for the company that already have the requirements in it, because it's really a big effort that we already did. We also realize from the presentations that we had today that circular economy is about everything. So we can't really rely upon product policy as an enabler for the circular economy. We need to have a strong multidisciplinary approach, and we need to collaborate with different sectors and different companies and policymakers. And the third message is there are so many different kind of regulations like that we really need to make sure that they are not mixed up. We have REACH, we have ROS, we have a lot of chemical legislation outside that, and then we have the scope of the product regulation that is on the internal market, and then the waste directive that is not an internal market directive. And this makes it a little bit mixed. And that is taking a lot of time just to try to understand what requirements are. So we need to have a clear and consistent regulation and a clear and consistent implementation in the different member states. I think you can move the slide. So by that is really important messages from Orgalim to the members, to the stakeholders, and to you, audience. And I hope that you will find the reading our position paper worthwhile the time that you need to invest to do it. I'm very proud of my colleagues and friends at the companies, the member organizations of Orgalim, and indeed the Secretariat for writing this extensive position paper. And stay tuned and follow us, speak to us, and meet us during the process of the political process of Circular Economy Action Plan in Europe. Thank you very much, all of you that joined this webinar. And thank you, Stephanie Mittelheim. I would like you to turn your webcam on, please, because that is the lady in Orgalim that's really doing all this and coordinating all the meetings that we have. And I would like you to have a great thank you to you for planning and organizing this seminar. So by that, a great thank you and looking forward to further dialogue.